What if I told you that there is a genre of music that could give you your dream body just by listening to it enough? Your dream bod, and finally, some respect from women. Okay, how about both of those and infinite money, cars, and houses? Are you gonna listen to that music? Would you even believe me? Well, in reality, the question isn't even if you believe it exists. It's more if you believe that it works, because I can assure you, people seem to think at least it's very real. And if you've even sneezed in TikTok's direction in the last few years, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those types of claims and promises could really only come from one group on the internet. But I shouldn't be so presumptuous, because there's probably, hopefully, some less chronically online people out there who have not sneezed in TikTok or YouTube Shorts directions anytime recently. So, alpha males, a term which has been implanted unwillingly into almost everyone's daily life. 90% of people watching probably don't even need me to define what an alpha male is. It's been covered time and time again by this point. But for that other 10%, it's pretty much a bunch of dudes on the internet who seem to think they have their shit together a lot better than other dudes on the internet. It's pretty much astrology, but for men. Alpha, beta, sigma, gamma, taurus, omega, Jesus Christ, I'm confused. I even slipped a real astrology sign in there and you didn't even notice. But for those of you who feel like you need a more official definition, Cambridge University actually has us covered. Some real alphas over there, I guess. The most successful and powerful male in any group. Oh, hold on. That was the biology definition, like for wild animals. I knew it couldn't be that cool. One sec, hold on. The early version of a male before beta testing and bug fixes. Unstable and not suitable for the public. Damn, I mean, well, they said it. Not me. Okay, yeah, I know that wasn't a real definition, but it does conveniently show how alpha males have kind of garnered a bad reputation these days. Everyone and their cousin has taken turns ripping apart what these weirdos say and do. While some alpha males are just about self-improvement or whatever, others have taken it upon themselves to become as offensive as possible to as many people as possible in an effort to get as many clicks as possible. But there's a massive part of this alpha culture that I've seen literally no one talk about, and that's alpha male music. The magical music I talked about in the intro. All good content needs to have equally good background music, and alpha males are no exception to this. And you know what? I'll give them this. They've definitely carved themselves a niche. No other group on the internet is more notorious and identifiable for their background music. There's also playlists upon playlists of music everywhere on the internet that are advertised as being for the modern alpha. Or sigma, they're very similar. Not all alpha songs are created equal though. While some of them can be classified as just TikTok core, others are probably why TikTok is getting banned. The disparity between the least insane and most insane songs is honestly mind-blowing. But I am getting slightly ahead of myself. How exactly are we going to look at all of these songs in one video without the help of some higher power? Because quite frankly, it would be too easy to sit here and point and laugh at a few songs that we've all already seen on our For You pages. A, we already know how silly this shit is, but B, that doesn't make us any more alpha, which is what we're really trying to do here. I figure there's really only one way to convey just how in-depth and complicated this rabbit hole actually is. Because how exactly did we get from a nice workout plan and relationship advice to red pills and podcasts with bizarre gender ratios? Well, get the keys to your rented Bugatti, your cigars, and your winter coat, because we're going to be scaling the alpha male music Iceberg. First things first, what is an iceberg and how is this one gonna work? Well, for those of you unaware, this type of iceberg is essentially a way to organize information from least obscure to most obscure. They were started on 4chan, which is probably the least alpha place in existence, which makes this whole thing way funnier if you ask me. But since TikTok ruined the entire idea of anything being obscure, we're gonna be sorting songs in our iceberg based on absurdity. Absurdity in both the songs themselves and the content normally paired with those songs. We might also learn a thing or two about where these alpha males came from as we go. The top of the iceberg may seem harmless at first, but I promise you by the end I will have multiple emails requesting people's therapy copay. The tip of the iceberg here is special, mostly because it's completely arbitrary. I guessed. I picked the songs based on assumptions about Well, a few things actually. Less assumptions, more educated hypotheses. Regardless, this section is mostly filled with classical music. Now, based on what we know about alpha males today, that literally could not be farther from what we would assume they listen to. And I wouldn't necessarily blame you for thinking that. Alpha males today have a 15-second attention span and are closer to cavemen than our species has been in a long time. But what's interesting is that it wasn't always like that. In fact, the idea of an alpha male in human beings has been around since the 90s. And as you could probably guess, they were a lot different, which is why we're at the top of the iceberg. Media outlets in the early 90s would describe men who excelled in their business ventures as alpha males, inspired by a book from 1982 about primate social dynamics and how they could relate to humans. The idea of these men being dominant or commanding was rarely ever applied, but the definition was very loose, so it wasn't ever clear. That may be in part because this doesn't actually exist. It's a thing for animals, not humans, and the book was a theory, but anyway, that being a generally vague concept by nature kind of left a lot of room for people to run with it, and they definitely would, but we'll get to that a little later. So I just kind of went with my gut in terms of the music I assume an ambitious, business-focused, suit-wearing alpha male in the 90s would listen to, when grunge music was the most popular genre. You know, a genre famous for being all depressed and nerdy? Yeah, this one's a little bit weird, but I do feel comfortable saying that classical music would be the perfect soundtrack to these calm figures among a world of stress that are these early alpha males, just strolling around his busy office with Debussy in his ears. Sounds poetic to me. Plus, even today, people have playlists of classical music intended to make you feel like a villain, wording scarily similar to some alpha propaganda. And it does make sense. These early, business-focused alpha males are kind of the antagonists to most normal people's lives. One of them was the main character of a slasher film, but he's the most alpha of them all, apparently, so I don't know. But this section's just for style points anyway, considering the music we really care about is the stuff to make us more alpha, not what the alpha males already listened to. This section's barely absurd at all. In fact, it's so mundane we probably should move on pretty quickly or else everyone's gonna click off. We've got a long hike down. This was just a warm-up. Okay, level 2. Now this level of the iceberg, I guessed again. Listen, what do you want from me? The least absurd and least mentally insane music is locked away pretty tight. Ironically, this section is mostly filled with rock music, but badass and angsty rock songs in particular. Most not chronically online people would probably say that this is what alpha males would listen to, and that's why it's here. Take Paranoid by Black Sabbath. It's got a fast tempo like it's got somewhere to be, the lyrics are sad and depressing, and the singer appears to be very cynical about love and romance. Which, funnily enough, is exactly what alpha males in the early 2010s felt too. The first example of someone defining themselves as an alpha male in video form was actually here on YouTube. It was pickup artists. You know the type, a really normal looking guy sitting in front of a camera saying really not normal things. Well, I mean, normal for someone who's definitely not over their ex. Just take a look at this guy, a face some of you may even recognize as he's kind of a YouTube legend. In a still frame, he looks like your junior year science teacher, but in video form, he still looks like your science teacher, just the one that's fighting the stalking charges. Yeah, without showing their entire lifestyle, these guys kind of came across as insecure. These tips and strategies for and about dating would often devolve into just rants and stories about why women suck or whatever. When people say alpha males hate women, this is what they're thinking of, and rightly so. And to be honest, hearing Bad to the Bone behind this, especially if you picture him starting up his Prius with this blasting from a CD, it checks out. Not just those two songs though. Every song here sounds badass, but the singers have some emotional work to do. And that's exactly what these alpha males are too. All package, no product. We've got to be statues, guys. It's time to, move on from that ex. But once again, this is barely definable as absurd. Maybe a little goofy, yeah, but we're very much still on Earth with other human beings. I think we can all agree that at this point in the iceberg, the music and the people listening to it are less unhinged and more just embarrassing and cringy. Most people wouldn't really raise an eyebrow if a self-proclaimed alpha male said these were their favorite songs. I would go as far to say that if you explain to someone what an alpha male is using these songs, they might even think it's a good thing. However, that does not last very long. Level 3. Now this is where shit gets real. As you can see, this level of the iceberg is where my schizophrenia took over. Nah, I'm just playing. It's a bunch of random TikTok songs. But it does look like the result of someone who's hearing voices. These songs have zero relation to each other. So what gives? Well, these are all songs that you might recognize from those Joe Rogan podcast clips where a scientist is dropping crazy health knowledge, or other bro science conspiracy TikToks. Take the song Paris by Else. If you ask me, it's actually pretty nostalgic now, but in any case, this was a big song used in that type of content, conspiracy core, if you will. The repetitive wubby synth melody, the absolutely reverb-drowned string section, and the muffled drum line make it ghostly and mysterious, which are obviously two important adjectives when you talk about conspiracy or other theory crafting type videos. It's in these content creators' best interest to have background music that fits their content more than distracts from it. Leaning into that mysterious and ghostly atmosphere is just smart. An important lesson, perhaps. But what does this have to do with alpha males? Well, to understand that, we have to update ourselves with the alpha male origin story. The modern alpha male is a hybrid of a few things. The first is the financial gurus. People like Gary Vee and Tai Lopez gassed a lot of weirdos up to preach about their own financial strategies and philosophies. Most alpha males love talking to people of less financial freedom like they have some sort of secret. After all, if you're rich, you must have only gotten there from hard work and the right knowledge, right? Not to mention, if you have infinite money and you can prove it to people, how could you possibly be insecure? The second are those pickup artists that we were just talking about. They may have seemed sad and embarrassing at first, but they're about to evolve. Screw morals, loyalty, and respect. It's time to become a villain. And most importantly, the third are life coaches. Take someone like Tony Robbins. He speaks to a more tender part of people. He uses people's empathy to make enthralling seminars where viewers cling on to his every word. By becoming, or at least appearing, like an empathetic mentor, you come across as a more powerful figure. Not only that, but being on top of not just dating and finances, but everything in life makes you seem even more serious, important, and most importantly, trustworthy, especially if you have your own theories and methodologies that you can preach to your fans. David Goggins being a prime example of someone who is a mentor just because he wants people to be better. He uses his own ideologies and practices to be more compelling and motivate people. And while he's not directly associated with alpha culture, he's been quoted by almost every single alpha male. So it was an obvious move for alpha males to adopt some of these ideas. Life coach type monologues have been spoken by countless alpha male gurus at this point, just maybe with a little bit more of a bizarre subject matter. Guys, did you know that it's been proven that tanning your ballsack increases your testosterone, which is important because being a raging ball of tea is attractive? I bet I just got at least one person to start tanning their sack. I'm telling you, if the game theorist started doing tren and made TikToks with this music, he would be the next alpha guru. Mark my words. But back to our music. And to be honest, no other section has a more distinct vibe than this one. Take another song by a completely different artist that invokes the exact same emotions. Blade Runner 2049 by the artist Synthwave Goose. Real names. And it even sounds similar. That wobbly, repetitive synth melody is very mysterious and very intriguing. But here's the thing. This song makes me immediately think of these guys. Not really these guys. That doesn't mean that this music isn't used in alpha male content. It definitely is. But it does change how absurd the music comes across. The most alpha songs hold a lot of their power from the environment they're in, surrounded by alphaness on every side. These songs do dip their toes into alpha culture, but aren't deep enough in to be as ubiquitous as some other deeper types of music. If you did meet an alpha male that said they listened to this type of eerie conspiracy music in their day-to-day life just as a soundtrack to their ideas, you would be rightfully concerned, but you wouldn't call the police. So not only is our ass music a slightly more alarming step down for alpha male music, but it's also perfect chronologically. Alpha males were improving themselves at this time, theorizing on how to appear more alpha on social media. Andrew Huberman, David Goggins, Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, and probably 100 other Joe Rogan podcast guests gave these alpha gurus the knowledge they needed to take over, and then passed that knowledge on through these videos. It was clear that bro science could become a religion. Next is the fourth level of the iceberg, and now we're getting pretty far under. This level is unique because it's filled with all sad songs. This category of alpha music is usually reserved for videos that are intended to make you, the viewer, feel bad for someone, to tug on those heartstrings. But why? Why would alpha males ever want to make that kind of content? That's gotta be out of alignment for, you know, the brand? Well, we're gonna need to update ourselves with where alpha male content went after that initial merging. As alpha content has evolved, these gurus have continued to get more and more extreme. Nowadays, it's not just about being good at one particular thing. You can't just be a player or have a lot of money from your business. In order to be an alpha male influencer in the modern era, you need to uphold what I like to call the pillars of alphaness. And if you can't, Well, just fake it. The first is to be completely apathetic, unemotional, and stone cold, so much so that you have no choice but to embrace it and endorse it. Why? Well, because you're a male, an alpha male, no less. No crying, do not talk about your feelings, and be extremely competitive. Your value as a person is directly tied to your accomplishments and how good of a provider you are. I don't see a problem with that if you don't. What comes along with this is being a super good debater, or at least being able to choose your opponents really well. But if your feelings get hurt, you are still allowed to fly off the handle because that's manly, obviously. All really healthy stuff. The second pillar of alphaness is knowledge and the grind. Because how are you supposed to get your hands on money, cars, and respect from your peers if you're mentally well, taking breaks, or enjoying life? Need I remind you, you're supposed to be an alpha male, the coolest and most successful male. If you experience a wide range of emotions, including happiness, you're pretty much just like everyone else, and that cannot happen. You need to be working so much harder than everyone else that you eventually become uncomfortable and burnt out, and then keep working because the patriarchy or something. I don't know. And the third and final pillar is your wealth. Whether you got it from scamming, you're currently getting it from scamming your new fans, or you got it from some other weird method, it doesn't matter. You need to be so ungodly wealthy that any average doom scroller would have no choice but to stop and stare. I mean, how can you really expect to captivate an audience using creativity or your own ideas? Just show the people your fucking Lambo that you definitely did not get from scamming the people clipping your podcast. Yeah, a practice that didn't go away once these people found TikTok was selling themselves, and their courses, and their books, and their multi-level marketing schemes, and their supplements, and their workout really, they're just greedy people. So, a large sector of alpha male content became trying to make the viewer feel like a victim for any particular reason. Usually for the end goal being for that viewer to buy their course that promises them freedom. And the music in these videos is obviously a huge player in that. Even when it's cheesy, sad music is sad, just by setting the scene and providing context. People cry at kids' movies all the time, that's all I'll say. Unless that's just me? Okay, well, whatever. Take the song Snowfall by Ownheart, a widely known ambient track which is genuinely pretty solid, which makes this whole thing a little bit more dangerous. Think about it like this. We're all well aware at this point that TikTok and other short-form content platforms can feel like complete emotional whiplash. A cute video of a dog right into someone slaughtering and cooking a live turtle, right into a funny comedy skit, all watched within an average of 3 minutes. Now, this is just a theory, but I'm pretty sure humans could not have been made to experience that wide of a range of emotions in that short of a time frame. Combine that with an algorithm which is literally designed to find the videos that you connect with the most, and it starts to seem a little dangerous for your brain. At the very least, if it isn't unhealthy, it's a good way to be left emotionally vulnerable. Therefore, if you, hypothetically, just watched a video about some cute cat, and then you scroll on to a sad video about some powerful story backed by that song, no matter how stupid the video is, it's not gonna get to you, like, at all. And even if you personally can't imagine it, you can't see how a lot of people would be affected by that. It's all about making it appear to be heavy, important, or emotional. Remember, you don't have to be MLK to make what you're saying seem important, especially when you have the help of that music. Take another song here, QKTHR by Aphex Twin. Now, this one really gets my panties in a twist. It really grinds my fucking gears because this is a really good song off of a really good album by one of my favorite artists. As a lot of you may know, Aphex Twin is a highly respected and cherished ambient/dance artist. But these alpha males are just using this song like a pimp, just to sell their shit or preach their useless, harmful, and stupid life strategies. The problem is, yes, the song is good. So yeah, the song is pretty sad. And for whatever reason, putting this song behind any combination of words makes those words seem really important to a lot of people's brains, including mine. Fundamentally, this doesn't really seem like that big of a deal. Of course, TikTok creators are allowed to use critically acclaimed music. It is what it is. The song is now banished to TikTok core. But when the things these people are trying to make seem important are as insane as this, it's annoying at best and problematic at worst. Oh, and don't even get me started on people's addiction to slowing these songs down for an even more emotional effect. It's gotten to the point where artists are realizing they're just losing streams by not releasing the slowed versions themselves. And in reality, all these slowed versions do is ride off the hype of that original song, yeah, but also bastardize the production to the point where the song is sometimes unrecognizable. And when it's all said and done, and we're not on TikTok, and the content is separated from the music, we all know how goofy this shit really is. You're just gonna show me a clip from a sitcom using this song, and it's supposed to make me sad? What? Most normal people are fully aware that this entire thing is goofball central. But that doesn't change the fact that a lot of people find this pairing of media life-changing. I probably should point out, though, that the alpha male community does share a lot of these songs with the core and hopecore communities. I won't even bother explaining what those two things are. If you're curious, just go look it up. But in any case, for the people familiar with those genres of content, hearing these songs doesn't immediately make them think of alpha males. So that's why we're at level 4. We've caught up to modern-day alpha males and their shady tactics for preying on young men. But you know what, though? At least I can sleep well knowing it's not all fun and games and sunshine and rainbows for alpha males. Sometimes they can feel sadness. So if you asked an alpha male what his favorite genre of music is, and he played Snowfall by Ownheart and then shuffled exclusively sad TikTok songs, you would probably be quite concerned for his mental health. That being said, we all know it could be so much worse. Speaking of which, welcome to the 5th tier of the iceberg. This is officially where we're gonna have to brace for impact upon hearing every single song. The first thing I notice upon seeing all of these in one place is how I barely recognize any of the songs from their names. I guess we're just so accustomed to hearing these songs and knowing nothing else about them other than the videos they're attached to. But we should probably talk about those videos. These are the ones you were probably thinking of the entire time. Either some guru owning someone on a podcast or some fired up schizo speech about hating women or, I don't know, becoming intimidating on purpose. Just for the sake of not sugarcoating it, these videos are awful and are the biggest factor in changing people's opinions of this music. Because I would love to say separate the art from the artist, separate the music from the videos or whatever, but like I just established, these artists are rarely ever named. In fact, finding the real art here, the background music of these videos, was the hardest part of making this video. So, unfortunately, it's too late. There's no way to divide these videos into background music that happens to be used in alpha content. They're just alpha videos. And it's not like these videos are art worth separating from anything. They're all roughly saying the same shit, using the same pool of songs. They all just blend together after a certain point. Let's take a look at the song Kerosene by Crystal Castles. If we ignore the fact that the guy from Crystal Castles isn't great, the song itself is really good. This album is all around pretty decent. Kerosene and Transgender are all famous on TikTok, mostly for alpha and sigma and lifting and motivational edits. Those crazy clips of movies, TV shows, and YouTube videos that people add their own effects, cuts, and music to. These songs also have their own sped up and slowed down versions, surprising absolutely no one. But in any form, these songs are important for a big reason. They explain a big part of why these songs have stuck around on TikTok and in those alpha and sigma playlists. A lot of people would describe this kind of song as making them feel like the main character, something a lot of you have probably already heard. The idea as to why certain songs create this vibe is kind of hard to pinpoint, but we can always theorize. If we look at Kerosene specifically, the song has an eerie tone. The wavy bass synth, the repetitive and understated drum line, and the skipping synth lead all cause the song to sound like a scene out of a movie, almost like the song is narrating a singular moment in time. Now, the idea of a song sounding like a scene out of a movie or making someone feel like the main character is not exclusive to alpha males, but a lot of these ideas do overlap, and a lot of alpha males embrace this type of emotion. There's no better evidence than the alpha male and main character playlists that are all over the internet. There's a lot of overlap. What's unique about this layer of the iceberg is that it's the most obvious. Like, when you really think about it, yeah, no shit an alpha influencer would want to use a song like Kerosene in their videos. The alpha males literally profit off of making people feel like the main character. Speaking of which, it's obvious as to why people like these songs even in a vacuum. They make them feel super cool. Now, it may be obvious, but that doesn't make it normal. The videos using these songs, the videos leaning into that kind of narcissistic by nature main character idea, are unhinged. The most unhinged thus far. But not all the songs here are necessarily the same. Let's look at the song Can You Feel My Heart by Bring Me the Horizon. This is another song that a lot of people are plenty familiar with. Its claim to fame was being the Giga Chad theme. But outside of just that, it's been used in countless alpha male videos. And upon hearing the song, that makes total sense. It's angsty, it's hype, intense, and pretty main character-esque, if you will. But the type of content that this song is used in is unique because it's often not those schizo rants or podcast clips. So over the past few years, bodybuilding and weightlifting culture has become huge on the internet, maybe a little too literally, and maybe a little bit more extreme, which by nature isn't such a bad thing. It's good that people are being motivated to get in the gym and stay in shape. However, the way it has played out, especially on TikTok, has been, a little bizarre, especially when it relates to grind culture and alpha culture. Essentially, motivation has become a massive genre of content. A lot of fitness influencers have gone to extremely corny lengths to make videos that will inspire people to get in the gym, show off big lifts, or just make lifting seem more badass and heroic. And if you haven't put it together already, that's kind of the perfect thing for alpha males to champion as well. Anything that lets them alienate people and just seem more better themselves, they'll brag about it and preach about it. So nowadays, if you want to be a real man according to these alpha males, you have to make an ungodly amount of money, wake up at 4 a.m. and take every supplement imaginable, have a harem of women to choose from, and weigh 200 pounds of pure, naturally gained muscle and have a 0.2% body fat percentage. And be horribly depressed while doing all of it because it's your grind. The irony is suffocating. With that said, the hype nature of Can You Feel My Heart lends itself pretty well to these lifting edits or whatever other gym content. And that hype nature comes from the fact that the song is, as some would define, incredibly cheesy. The skipping vocal chorus, the over-the-top and blown-out guitar sounds, and the Imagine Dragons-ass drumline make this a song I don't think many people would listen to in their free time, for leisure. So, not only is this song perfect for your everyday Patrick Bateman edit, but it also serves as a good background track for your deadlift PR, which you can conveniently caption how you're overcoming obstacles and everyone doubted you. Perfect. But either way you cut it, these types of songs are slightly absurd. Yet again, most people are aware of how goofy the entire context of this situation is. Yeah, sometimes these songs are just used for basic motivation, but it's often used to peddle such basic ideologies that it comes across as contrived and forced. But unlike with the sad stuff, when it's not goofy, it's some guy spouting some hateful and offensive stuff. The goofiness level is definitely on a spectrum here. Regardless, this section is a steep drop, and the gradual nature of the iceberg doesn't really do it justice. In a vacuum, some of these songs are good, and some of them not so good, but when they're used, it can turn out to be an insane, unhinged piece of digital internet media. Okay, I just want to take a second real quick to download what we've consumed so far, to regroup, if you will, because there's an important takeaway that we already have from the iceberg. At this point, we've looked at 4 different categories of alpha music that could all be listened to by an audience outside of chronically online, TikTok-brained individuals. And you can call it a consequence of the format of short-form content, or you can say it's a product of how prevalent the internet is today, but a lot of this content is absurd for the sake of it. Listen, here's the thing. Alpha males are morally flawed, questionable people at best, but they're content creators at the end of the day. We can really only hope that if views weren't such an important thing and clout wasn't raising in value faster than gold, their content would be less ridiculous. Well, I'd love to think that if our last tier didn't exist. All right, listen up. I have no words that could accurately describe what level 6 is going to consist of, so just lock in. Now, our last level here is special for a few reasons, but most importantly, the popularity of this type of music is exclusively, and I mean like 98%, from alpha male content. Before people realized that this type of music serves a very specific purpose, no one was really making it, outside of a few niche artists. You tell me if the name of this genre rings a bell. Phonk. With a PH. Let's, real quick, for the 4 people in the very back who have not heard that word before, explain what phonk actually is. I imagine its origins are a little different than a lot of people would think. Phonk is a genre of EDM that was started in the 2000s. It was originally a branch off of Memphis rap with its highly distorted melodies. A lot of the composition of this genre was inspired by classical music and horrorcore, which kind of makes sense if you really think about how these songs sound, but just hearing those 2 genres adjacent from this is weird. It mostly included sampled rap pieces with other highly distorted instrumental additions. Combine that with a lo-fi production style and an indie gangster aesthetic, and you have a pretty solid niche underground subgenre. But that was the ghost of phonk past. The modern definition is still cut from the same cloth, but it's much more TikTok bait. People making phonk music nowadays are making music more aligned with drift phonk, a subgenre more focused on a higher BPM and sub-bass cowbells, a type of phonk more aligned with everyone's rotting brains. Just so pleasant to listen to. It's called drift phonk because it's actually associated with drifting cars. No one really knows exactly why. And this sub-genre has devolved into even more blisteringly fast BPMs and bass sounds that rival hardstyle in intensity and volume. Today, phonk is recognized by almost everyone and even endorsed by Spotify with its own playlist. It was genuinely so hard not to talk about phonk until this point in the video just because of how prevalent it is today. The sheer amount of phonk songs that are being made and then subsequently used on social media is frankly overwhelming. And that's not necessarily a coincidence. There has been a decently large pop house revival happening since the start of the 2020s, so it's not really a surprise that we ended up here. People are always going to want a more intense version of the same pop sound they've become familiar with. But how does it end up on our Iceberg? Well, in reality, this music has been used all over TikTok by this point, but it started on the motivational and bodybuilding sides of the platform, which, if you've been here for the rest of this video, you would know that involves the alpha male community pretty much by default. Alpha music strives to be as intense and as hype as possible, no matter how goofy it may turn out. Phonk, and everything it represents, is just the logical endpoint for alpha male music. We were always going to end up here one way or another. It was more of a question of when, not if. It's like how all animals are said to eventually become crabs through evolution. It's the ideal life form. Phonk is the ideal alpha genre. And all the types of content we've talked about until this point have been made with phonk music, with literally no exceptions, and to a way crazier degree. Badass edits of your favorite anime, clips of your favorite guru talking their shit or owning someone, gym motivation and lifting clips, or just straight up a few minutes of a movie someone thought were Sigma as fuck. I don't know. And as you could probably guess, any Sigma or Alpha playlist on YouTube, Spotify, or SoundCloud includes easily 70% phonk, so the community relates with this music heavily, and that much is pretty clear. Why don't we take a look at one of these coveted songs? Moon Deity's Neon Blade. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this shit is just too funny to me. I think it's just so absurd that my brain, it malfunctions. I can really only hope I'm not the only one laughing while listening to this. Between how blown out the bass is, the completely random full fade out and fade back in right before the drop, and the art for the song, it's just comical to me. It's trying so hard. It sounds badass, that's at least undeniable, but holy shit, man, are you trying to hype people up or just straight up scare them? But maybe it's just too much for my brain to take seriously. Maybe this is just my bias. So it's hard to hate it too much. I don't get country music either, so I don't know. That being said, it's not always fun and games. For example, the song Rave by DXRK. Now listen, I want to say this in the most respectful way possible to both the artist and the people who enjoy this music. This song sounds like straight poopy ass. Yeah, it starts okay, granted super generic and just like every other phonk song, but towards the end, it peters out into this really lame instrumental that sounds unfinished and boring. All of the gripes I had with Neon Blade apply here, except it doesn't even lean far enough into the craziness to make sense. Weird church vocals, a sharp and once again blown out bass line, and a basic melody. What is appealing about this? And it makes me wonder why these influencers and their clippers seem hell-bent on using this music. And I think it boils down to this. First of all, like I was just talking about with Neon Blade, it's absurd. So ridiculous that it catches people's attention, which is ideal for short-form content. Second of all, though, the recognition. These songs are popular because I mean, well, they are. Really, who knows how they become so big, but that's besides the point. Once they do become popular, people will use a phonk song to associate their video with other videos using that same song. There are countless motivational, badass, and intense videos using Rave over here. And I think we all know what a lot of those videos are like. So if you want your video to be like that too, you would be smart to use the same song. It's out of our control. Honestly, a big part of this genre's popularity is just classic marketing. Associate your video with other videos that your audience probably already enjoyed. It seems soulless because it is. This shit is a business to these people. But I have one more example, and it kind of makes that whole thing I was just talking about seem a lot less digestible. This song. Okay, so I'm just gonna play you a few seconds of this audio. Nothing really to, note about it. Pretty normal stuff. All right, here we go. I might be the crazy one. Maybe that's just what good music sounds like. I really don't know. But, just in case, I'll give my few reasons as to why I don't love this. The bass has been blown up like a balloon, and honestly, it sounds like it's about to pop. The vocal samples are cool, I guess, if you put them in a different setting, but the instrumentation is so bland once you take away the over-the-top production, which isn't even a selling point in the first place. No, you know what? I'm serious. Go play the song on a low enough volume to where you can hear it, but it's not blowing out your speakers. I'm telling you, it's boring. Oh, and don't let me forget, there's a slowed version. But for the sake of my blood pressure, I'm not even gonna talk about the slowed versions of these phonk songs. They exist. That's all I'm gonna say. And like I said, this one is hard to digest. It's a tough pill to swallow because it once again begs the question, why do these influencers and their clippers feel the need to use this music? And you can't can't even start to make the argument that it's for recognition like I was saying before, because this song doesn't have nearly as many videos made with it. Yeah, maybe it's literally just for the absurdity of it, but I even then struggle to believe these people are going that out of their way to disturb their viewers. Regardless, this song is as mentally unstable, sigma-brained as it gets. And that's precisely why we're at the very bottom of this iceberg. The kind of content that would go with a song like this, or any other phonk song for that matter, just could not be mentally stable. It just wouldn't make any sense. In order to make this kind of energy fit and make a cohesive video, you would have to say some crazy shit, or show some crazy shit. Because just like with the last two tiers, most normal people would find this kind of content extremely silly. With this tier though, there's really no exceptions. There's no deviation here. Once you use phonk music, you're immediately alienating every normal, oxygen-breathing human being. So you might as well just lean into the unhingedness. Everyone's probably laughing at you already anyway. There is literally no music in the given universe that would make me more concerned for someone if they told me they'd listen to it on a daily basis, like for recreational purposes, than phonk would. Imagine if someone told you, yeah, I just like to listen to phonk music and do the dishes. Like, what are you doing to those dishes, man? But that is another important aspect of phonk music that I haven't even brought up yet. Because yeah, in terms of the influencers, it might just be a matter of social media and people wanting to squeeze out that clout juice. But that can't be all of it. People seem to actually enjoy this music outside of these videos. I will once again reference those alpha playlists, or just straight up phonk playlists that do exist. Or, I don't know, maybe these streaming numbers? Holy shit! And with a lot of bizarre electronic music, it's easy to tell that the mix or composition is weird because it's intended to be played in a club, on a stage, or in a car where a group might enjoy blown out bass, for example. But this genre appears to be produced like ass on purpose, which is insane considering it's best consumed alone. Or at the very least, that seems to be the way the community has intended for people to listen to it. As a backing track for your workout, just when you need some motivation, or as a pick-me-up when you're sad. Which just blows my mind because this stuff is so over the top and frankly unenjoyable. But in reality, that's kind of what people want. This music is intended to be motivation for the gym, for your job, or I don't know, for whatever. Man or woman, human or alpha male, everyone needs to stay motivated. And I guess TikTok brain syndrome has some people thinking that regular house, EDM, rock, and rap music is just not good enough. Need I remind you, this is not just some niche genre. This shit is bigger than you would ever imagine. And this is why we're at the bottom of the iceberg. Because that is almost certainly a consequence of alpha culture, or grind culture. The connotation of this music is alpha. People hear it most when it's backing the most outlandish and offensive alpha videos. From a bald guy in a suit standing next to a supercar telling you you're worthless because you don't make enough money, to a doctor telling you to cut out all happiness as a dopamine fast, phonk is always there. And if you follow this shit like a religion, which a lot of people do, you'll do whatever it takes to fit that mold perfectly. And if that means sacrificing your exposure to any genuinely good music and your hearing, a lot of people will do it to become more alpha. So, can listening to phonk music make you more alpha? This is the bottom. This is as far as we're gonna go. We just established this is the most absurd and sigma-brained music. If there was a tier of the iceberg to do it, it would be this one, right? Oh, shit. I forgot about the very bottom of the iceberg. So, some of you more attentive viewers out there may have noticed something a little bizarre about my YouTube video about alpha males. I have not once mentioned the most popular of alpha male figures, the guy forming a lot of this culture, which would be a weird decision by me. Not once has the big guy came up. The top G, the brother having, Bugatti driving, prison cell dwelling, the awkward family dinner topic, restraining order collector, pizza box leaker, alpha leader himself, Andrew Tate. And I did that on purpose. I felt like he needed his own tier of the iceberg, right at the bottom. While he may have introduced infinite young men to the alpha scene, I believe he is where things start and where they end. He is both the most consumable and most alienating figure, the most mundane and the most radical. And with music, this is no exception. Obviously. Many of you probably already know how he feels about this topic, but for those of you who don't, the self-proclaimed top G thinks that music, in its entirety, is a waste of time and shows weakness. What the fuck? This balding kangaroo thinks that this entire art form is lame, and everyone who listens to music is lame. And since whatever he says is gospel to these people, this is a viewpoint that floats around the alpha community. Do I think this is the stupidest thing ever? Absolutely, but that doesn't change the fact that he is the most influential figure in this community. Not referencing him was, well, literally I already did reference him, so this is an opinion that has become associated with alpha culture. The bottom of the iceberg here is empty. No music. No sounds at all. Now, for editing, Liam, this is fucking great. Less time in Photoshop. But for my soul, this hurts. I said that phonk music was the logical conclusion for alpha male music. But I lied. The true perfect endpoint for alpha male music is silence. The absence of music. Because what is more insane than putting nothing where there should be music? Not listening to anything in the gym, driving in complete silence, and partying to the thoughts inside your head. This iceberg was based on absurdity, and there is nothing more absurd than this batshit insane viewpoint. I had no choice. It had to be this way. If you want to be an alpha male, a true fucking animal, you shouldn't need music or any sound to distract you. In fact, you should just get a lobotomy. I mean, your thoughts are a distraction if you really think about it, and then... But we can get back to that titular question now. Not just phonk, though. Can any of this music make you more alpha? And I hate to break hearts here, but actually, you know what? Let's go through it real quick. Wait, don't click off just yet. Come on, it might not be as cut and dry as you think. The top few levels of the iceberg probably won't be raising those alpha levels anytime soon, let's just be honest. Anyone can listen to those songs in their everyday, non-alpha lives. Any alphaness that you're trying to squeeze out of those songs has already been done by countless people. Plus, that looked sus. As we get further down the iceberg, though, well, we already established that we're not allowed to feel sadness. Remember, even if there are tears streaming down your face, you are not crying. That is bitch made. The sad music makes you sad. What are you, some kind of pussy? And there are some decent songs in level 5, some shit to put on at the gym or while day trading. But once again, anyone could find these songs hype, even a beta, or God forbid, a gamma male, or, dare I say, even a woman could enjoy these songs. We're not trying to be nerds or anything, but we do want our music taste to be niche. If we really want to get more alpha, we're gonna have to, look even lower. Actually, wait a minute. Let's back up real quick. One thing we never discussed was what exactly are we trying to get out of the music itself? Yeah, I get it. We want to become more alpha, but no one actually believed me in the intro. This music's not going to magically spawn in money, cars, or pretty girls. If we're going to be more realistic, I think the goal of this music for the people who actually look at it as making them more alpha is just to stay motivated. It just so happens that what comes along with that is all the other shit. So yeah, I think a lot of people need to chill out and not take everything these gurus say as gospel. Do I wish they didn't take it so far? Absolutely, but if we've learned anything about these guys, they don't always agree with each other. I've heard some heated debates even in those packed podcast rooms. Listen, I'm not defending alpha males. They should be off the internet. They shouldn't be allowed to show this shit, especially not to kids. They suck. We all know they suck. Speaking to the people who feel inspired by these guys, because there's no point in actually trying to talk to the influencers, internalize the motivation, listen to this music with the intention of achieving your goals, but maybe stop there. In my opinion, being a real alpha is not letting some mystery NPCs in your phone tell you how to think, how to act, or how to live your life. Especially considering those NPCs are corny as fuck and complete douchebags. None of the tiers of this iceberg are going to make you more alpha. If you enjoy any of the music in this iceberg, of course, don't let me stop you. All I'm saying is, just like no one cares about your sign, no one cares about how alpha you are, let alone if you're listening to the right music to become more alpha. There is actually one more tier of the iceberg that is proven to make you more alpha I'm telling you, every single time. It makes you more alpha, but you're just going to have to subscribe to my channel and join my YouTube memberships, okay? Trust me, it works.